So, this podcast is actually going to go over the fork, which is one of the more complex objects that is required of you on this project. So, as you can see, I have different stages right here. Let me play my timeline of me building the fork. I have just pretty much a basic block out, me starting the edge flow for the different prongs, me shaping it, also extruding out the prongs, extruding out the hand piece, adding in my bevels, and then also, last but not least, cleaning it up and also adding the curvature of the actual fork. So if I hit stop real quick, go into my perspective, you can see kind of the final shape that we're going to actually be going for. So let's get to it. Alright, so before we start, as you can see, I have a picture of a fork. This picture is actually inside your reference folder for this project, so if you actually want to use this fork reference, go for it. If you want to actually use a different fork reference and try to use what you've actually learned in this podcast so far, go for it. So, let me resume the video playback. Alright, so we have this fork. As far as me, I usually start with a cube. So go to Polygon Cube, and it's just a basic default cube. I'm going to drag it, and I'm going to try to just scale it to be about the size of the width of that top part, and then scale it to where it's right below the gaps and right above where it starts narrowing to go into the hand piece. And as you can see, I just played with the thickness of it, and the thickness of this is not really direct science. I'm just eyeballing it from what I know from forks and what I've seen in references, so you don't have to follow that to a T like my measurements, but as you will see throughout the video, I will mess around with my thickness and get to where it actually looks right. So I'm about to go to my edge loop tool, and I'm resetting it to make sure I don't have any weird settings like insert multiple edge loops or anything like that. So it's now back to its default form, and the reason why I'm doing that is I'm going to start actually putting edge loops where the prongs are meeting the gaps, so I can use those to help me draw my edge loops that I'm going to need for this base fork. And the reason why I want to have edge loops is because I kind of want the top one and the bottom prong to actually have an edge loop that flows into each other, and the same way for the middle two ones. I want to have an edge loop that kind of flows into them. And it definitely makes it easier when it comes to beveling and actually getting the overall shape. So I'm taking my split polygon tool and drawing from there to there, and then drawing from there to there, and I'm just right clicking with my split polygon tool that actually enters in the line, but also keeps the tool up. So it's a more of a speed proficiency thing that I'm doing right here. So that's right click again to keep the tool up and be able to draw. And as you can see, I'm not putting a lot of effort into making sure that it matches up with the top and bottom, because I can fix that pretty easily. So I'm drawing the bottom right now. As you can see, the split polygon tool is being a little bit finicky. Alright, so I want them to actually start matching up. So I'm going to select those guys, scale them in the x-axis down into the center. Same way with these guys. And all that does is just align them up. It just flattens them in an axis. And I'm just going to tweak it out a little bit. Alright, now I'm going to get rid of the edge loops that I'm not going to need. This way I'm not having excessive edge flow in my geometry, and also just having nice quad geometry makes it easier to model. So getting rid of these guys. And you probably notice I missed one of the edges, and I'll notice that in a few minutes. So alright, now I'm going to start moving these kind of into the shape of my object. using my move tool, translate tool and my scale. So that's going back to where the actual fork part meets the base of the actual hand part. I don't know. I don't know the technical terms for the fork, so bear with me. Alright, and as you can see, I'm about to notice that I need to delete that extra edge in 2 seconds, hopefully. Alright, there I go. Alright, so got rid of that unneeded edge, and I'm just going to move these verts back to be a little bit more uniform with the outer edge loop. Same way with these two guys. Alright, so I got these guys a little bit uniform. I'm gonna scale these out a little bit so it's not such a steep angle from them going from one end to the other. So once that's all said and done, I'm gonna play around with my thickness, and now it's time for the prongs. So I'm gonna go to the front, pick every other one, and extrude those out. Now, as you can see, we have the extrude tool, and we have a little circle that's off to the side that looks like it's orbiting it. That is a way to quickly switch between object and global extrusion, and it's really helpful when you're actually doing scale, because as you can see, once I start popping these guys out, I'm going to use the object. Actually, I'm going to use a global one to kind of scale them inwards where they're actually scaling into a single pivot point, and then I'm going to use the object one to actually scale in the little faces at the end without them actually doing the scale for the global. So it's a quick way to do this. If you need more info, be sure to ask me or one of the lab specialists that are working right now. So going back to that back face, alright, finally grabbing that back face, and I'm just going to extrude that back, scaling in a little bit, and then I'm going to hit G, which